Hello. So in this video, I'm going to give you a lesson plan for teaching ethos appeals. Now this is a fairly short lesson plan because at least this semester I've taught ethos on the same day that I've taught the rhetorical triangle. And I have a separate activity that I do for that, which I'll cover in another video. So basically my approach to teaching ethos, start the day out with a writing prompt about defining ethos. So I start by having my students explain what ethos is, what's involved in it, what are its characteristics, etc., etc. And then we briefly go over that. Then I divide ethos up into situated ethos and constructed ethos. And basically, situated, and I put these on the board. So we make two lists. And that's the thing that we do. We go through, and I have students identify, or I have students sort of come up with as many techniques for both situated and constructed ethos as they can think of. Now basically, situated ethos are the qualifications and credentials that someone comes into a rhetorical situation with. So things like one's education, one's job, awards, reputation, recognition in the field, things like this, publications on the subject, whatever it is. Constructed ethos are the things that one does within a rhetorical text itself to get the audience to trust them. So this includes, so a lot of times students really hop on things like providing evidence, citing sources, quoting from experts, things like this. And these are all kind of logos techniques more than they necessarily are ethos techniques directly, but they do help build the credibility of a speaker. And so I try and push them beyond those sort of text-based things to think about things like the tone that one uses, the way that one positions oneself as a member of an in-group or builds common ground with an audience. Maybe humor, maybe humility, maybe appeals to shared values, and goodwill. I think goodwill is an incredibly important component of ethos, because if you can establish that what you want is good for the people you're trying to persuade, they're more likely to agree with you if they believe that whatever you want is in their best interest. So these are some of the things that we end up putting on the board. Then we look at a really solidly ethos-driven text that they've read for homework. So this year, and I'll probably stick with this one for at least a few years, I used Nicole Hannah-Jones's full statement. I forget exactly what the title of the thing is, but her full statement about declining to come to UNC Chapel Hill. And I'll put a link for that in the description down below. Because I think so this is a fairly long piece, but I think it's actually a masterpiece of ethos-driven rhetoric. Hannah-Jones is incredible in the way that she deploys a ton of different approaches to building her credibility, establishing her goodwill, setting herself up as the victim of an injustice, building sympathy, establishing her long history with UNC, Chapel Hill, etc., etc. There's so much going on there. It's an embarrassment of riches in terms of ethos. And so I have my students working by themselves or with a partner or in a small group go through the essay and identify 3 places where Hannah-Jones uses ethos appeals. 3 places where we see her building her credibility, establishing her goodwill, showing her qualifications, building common ground with the audience, whatever it is that they find. And then we go through and we talk about some of them. How many you want to talk about depends on how many of your students want to volunteer to discuss, and how much time you have to devote to it. I had us just basically talk about 3, But then I gave students the option if there was any other ethos techniques that they noticed that they really want to draw our attention to. And actually, in all of the classes, all of the sections this semester where I taught this, we got more than 3 examples. So again, there's a ton of stuff in the essay, and there's a lot of stuff that students will find to draw on. And so basically, that's the structure. I think it's hard probably to draw that out to a full 50-minute lesson plan. But again, I teach this on the same day in a 50-minute class that I teach the rhetorical triangle. And so if you spend the first half of the course on this and the second half of the class period on that or on something else, I think it works really well.